So today we're going to be talking about types of fathers. Which one are you, and how is it impacting your child? It is said that a child doesn't just grow up with a father; they grow up with a type of father. So the question is, what type are you becoming, right? And this is for every father who is on here, or if what am I going to call it? If you know a father, maybe you're married to well, you're a lady married to a guy. You could be watching this on their behalf, so to speak. The question is, what type of father are you, and what type of father are you becoming? It's interesting because earlier today, I was chatting with a young adult. She's in her 20s, and while we're chatting, I checked her WhatsApp status, and she had a question on there, which I'm going to read. Her question on her status was, how do people raise healthy, emotionally intelligent, happy, and successful children? How do people raise healthy, emotionally intelligent, healthy, emotionally intelligent, happy, and successful children? It seems like a lot to ask of one person, but it's actually doable, very doable. And for this person to have asked this question, it's evident that there is a dearth, a lack of this quality in many people. And so it's a question of like, how do people do it? Maybe they're not getting it from home, or maybe they're not seeing it in other people, or maybe they're seeing it in other people and they are wild. Like, how did you pull this off? But even that begs the question of, the quality of training that or raising that they got at home. So before I jump into the types of fathers, I want to run us quickly through what fathers uniquely contribute to a home, because we live in a time where, some women have said, oh, they don't care about men. Oh, they can, what's the word? They can do what you call it, IVF, and go on to raise their own children. Men are scum, men are this, men are that. I don't quite agree. So I'm just going to run us through a couple things that men uniquely bring to the table before we then get into the weeds of, types of fathers and the impact on the children. Now, fathers tend to contribute strongly to risk taking and confidence building in their children. They also bring about boundary setting and discipline. If you check many homes where the kids don't have boundaries, more often than not, the father is missing. They also help in identity formation. The presence of a father, the actual presence of a father, very much helps with identity formation, especially for boys. The presence of a father helps with that. And then finally, for now, it helps with self-worth and relationship expectation, especially for girls. From many of the trainings and the research that I've done, it's evident that a lot of girls get their self-worth from their fathers. And so you find that many girls who have a low self-esteem or who suffer from a measure of even imposter syndrome, despite them having the right qualifications and, they've gone on in life, you find that a lot of that is still traceable back to the absence of a father. But usually the ones who have their fathers there, they don't struggle a lot with, self-worth and even the expectations as far as what their partner brings to a relationship. All right, so let's jump into that. And if you're here for the first time, or maybe you get around to watching this for the first time at some point, and you're wondering, who is this guy? What gives him the right to talk to me? So I've been working in teens ministry, and by extension, working with parents for about a decade now. It's a minute. And in my years of working in this space, I've made some observations, some of which I'm going to share with you tonight. The day that this dropped in my spirit, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is something. And as I began to dig into this, I found out that what I came up with, interestingly, has already been researched on, but the nuances are slightly different. So I'm going to share some of my thoughts with you, and then I'm going to, broaden the scope, take a zoom lens to this topic. Like I said, in case you're joining us for the first time, we're talking about types of fathers, which one you are, and how it's impacting your children. So in broad strokes, note I said in broad strokes, there are 4 categories of fathers based on my experience working in this space. There are 4 categories of fathers. The first one is the one I like to call the present father, right? This, for me, is the ideal father. He's physically and mentally and emotionally available. He's everything. He's like the star dad. If there was like a hall of fame for dads, this guy would be probably the only guy there, or at least he would have the highest spot. This is the present dad. He's a star dad. He's the dad that his sons want to be like. He's a dad that his daughters would like to marry, men who have similar qualities and all of that. Now, unfortunately, there are few men who fit into this category, but they are only few in comparison to the other types of fathers. However, if you take this, should I say, group and isolate them, they are quite a number, and I'm very grateful to that, because more and more I see more fathers fitting more, into this profile more than ever before, right? However, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, right? So, because there are more and more fathers fitting into this, I am more convinced that these fathers are going to help a great deal in raising solid kids. Now, that's the present. Excuse me. That's the present father. Excuse me. The present absent father is the next one. I have no idea why I'm suddenly sneezing. The kitchen, actually. So yeah, the present absent father. Now, the present absent father, remember I said the present father is the star dad. Now, the present absent father is physically present, but all he brings to the table is his physical ability. And in some cases, he will bring, the proverbial, paying of fees, paying of rent, food, all of that. But that's about all that he brings to the table. This father is emotionally unavailable. Don't ask him questions. This man does not know jack diddly squat about what's happening in his kid's life. He doesn't know what's happening in school. You probably stand a better chance of asking Google for information than asking this man for information. He's just there to provide for the home, and to be there as, should I say, an aesthetic. He's just, so that if they say he's a father in his home, he's there. Usually such men are married to their jobs or their businesses, or in some cases they're having an affair, and in some extreme cases they're doing all these things together. They're just focused on business and affair outside and all of that. It's pointless at this juncture, to say that such men usually are struggling in the marriage that is at home. There is almost no love between them and the wife. And the reason why they remain in the marriage is maybe because of their faith, because of personal principles, or in some weird, random cases, because they want to create a sense of normalcy for the children. So they go on to remain in the marriage. So that's that for the present absent father. He's physically present but absent in many other relevant ways. Now we come to the absent present father. You're probably wondering, present, absent, present. Don't get confused. The absent present father, this is the divorced or separated or never got married to your mom father. So he doesn't live with the kids and their mom, but this man makes an effort to be in the lives of the child or children by showing up when it matters. If there's a sports game in school, he can be there. When there's a graduation, he can be there. When a child needs certain things, this man can be there. So he's absent physically, but he's present in many other ways. When a child needs counsel, the child can easily pick up the phone and call the father or email the father. And this father he's doing his best to be present. It's just, it's unfortunate for whatever reason that he's not with the child and the child's mother. Now, interestingly, there is another variation of this type of father. And this variation, for me, is the most annoying. He's one of the most annoying. The two that are most annoying. He's one of the most annoying. This variation of absent present father is the kind who, even though he's not in the picture, every time he shows up, it's to cause chaos. And he does it effortlessly. It's like when he shows up, everybody's angry, everybody's tense, they can't seem to understand what is going on. His presence is no longer needed, but he makes it a point of duty to make his kids' lives hell. Like, when I hear about these kinds of fathers, I feel like lying them down to flog them. Like, if you know you're not going to bring joy to these people, just leave them alone. Every time they show up, they dig up old wounds. They make these children cry. They make them wish that they never were born, or that the fathers never existed, or even sometimes the kids wish that the father was dead. Now, these fathers don't stop there. Some go the extra mile of making sure that they isolate one child in a scenario where there's more than one child. They isolate one child and begin to love upon this child, showing this child unnecessary, or should I say unusual attention, making the child feel special. What they're really gunning at is they're trying to make this child serve as a mole in the family. So the child is feeding them more information that's happening in the family, which of course this father will go ahead and weaponize against the estranged wife or partner, and maybe even the other children. Now, down to the fourth one, the absent father. So we've talked about three: the present, the present absent, the absent present, and now we're talking about the absent father. I think this is a no-brainer. All this man ever contributed was the energy required to make a baby, which, if you ask me, it doesn't require any special skill or genius, right? That's all he did. He never married the child's mom, never even tried to take responsibility for the child. He's not there. He's not in the picture. Now, it's interesting because there are two scenarios or two variations to this kind of absent father. There is the absent father who has the money, has the means to take care of the child, but either his ego is too big to maintain the relationship, or he never just liked the child's mom enough to, should I say, live a life with them beyond a few moments of pleasure. That's this one. So he keeps his distance. He's like, yeah, I slept with your mom, but yeah, so what? Moving on. Children happen every day. Unwanted pregnancies happen every day, so he moves on. Now that is one variation. The second variation is the low, pardon me, but the low life one, who doesn't have money, doesn't have anything, and is not even motivated or inspired to say, you know what? Let me go ahead and try to be something for this child. Let me try and be present in this child. They're completely unmotivated. Very annoying, set of people. However, that is life and that happens. So in case you're just joining there, just run us through, from my observation, the types of fathers, the four. Notice I said I'm going to paint broad strokes, 4 categories of fathers: present, absent, absent, present, and then absent fathers. Now, if I were to ask you a question on this live, I would ask, what is the one thing that your father did that impacted you the most? I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Just drop a word, drop a note, very quickly. What is the one thing that your father did that impacted you the most? It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. No long stories, no. If you type it, if you type a long story, I can't even read it. And that is if you want to share. If you don't want to share, it's okay. But yeah, if you want to comment, I'm going to give us about 30 seconds before I move on. Okay. Fires Deborah says, stayed away from home for long periods. Interesting. Okay. Anybody else? Thanks for commenting, Deborah. Anybody else? What is the one thing your father did that impacted you the most? Like I said, it could be something positive. It could be something negative. Okay. You can still drop your comments while I continue with this. So now I'm about to take a deep dive into the real reason why we're here. I already started. I've given you the preamble by letting you know the 4 broad strokes of, or shall I say, types of fathers painted with broad strokes. Okay. Ola Oshebikon says, my father my father taught us to be content with what we have and trust God to always have our back. Okay, that's a good one. Esther says his relationship with money. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we can unpack that later. Hopefully we have enough time. Chijindu says, cried in front of me, was consistently kind. That's a very good thing. That's a very good thing. And as long as he cried in front of you, is not because he was being a wimp. As long as it's that he showed you that it's okay as a man to cry, then we're on the right track. Ephraim says, taught us to pray. Fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to move on real quick. When I was preparing my notes, I thought, okay, do I want to saddle people down with negative news? Because this type of fathers now, it's about to go a little dark. Not gothic dark, but just a little dark, right? And so I thought, okay, you know what? Let me focus on the positive side of fathers before I then go into the negative side. And how do I mean by that? It's no brainer that, or should I say, it's not news, not no brainer. It's not news that many of the youth in prisons or in penitentiary, I think that correctional facilities around the world, many of those youth grew up in homes where their fathers weren't present. And so it said that about 95% of young prisoners grew up with absent fathers. And so what happens is that these kids grew up angry and bitter. And so you're not surprised when you hear that somebody killed someone, or somebody stabbed someone, or somebody shot someone. It's often very traceable to the fact that their fathers were not in the picture. Right? Now, studies repeatedly show that children with involved fathers, this is the positive side before I go a little dark on you. Studies repeatedly show that children with involved fathers are more likely to do better academically, avoid crime and substance abuse, have better mental health, experience less poverty, and then develop stronger social and emotional skills. This is when the father is present. So again, we're adults here for the most part. Go figure. If the presence of a father can have this kind of effect on a child, flip it, and then you'll understand what the absence of a father can do. That means if the absence of a father will impact the child such that they may not do well academically. They may very well get into crime and substance abuse. They may very well have mental health issues. They may very well experience poverty. And finally, these kids will often develop weaker social and emotional skills. Now, the absence of a father, whether partially or fully, is often indicative of a measure of inadequacy in them, meaning that it's like human beings often operate like garbage in, garbage out. We're often products of what do you call it? Our upbringing, the environment in which we grew up. And so, like I often say, people do better when they know better. So many men, unfortunately, just carry on the operating system that they saw at home and pass that or bring that into their home and subconsciously pass that down to their children, right? So like I said, the absence of a father, whether partial or full, is often indicative of a measure of inadequacy in them. Now, more often, this inadequacy is as a result of what they saw, like I said, growing up. So then it begs the question, who is an inadequate father? Who is an inadequate father? An inadequate father is a person who fits the patterns of fathering that fail to meet a child's core needs. That means that there is a pattern of fathering that meets a child's needs, and there is a pattern of fathering that actually fails. He didn't fear being misunderstood. Okay, fantastic. There is a pattern of fathering that actually fails to meet a child's core needs. What then are a child's core needs? The 5 core needs, according to psychologists around the world, there are 5 core needs. Don't get me wrong, there are other needs, but 5 core. There's a reason it's called core. The first is presence. The second is protection. The third is provision. The fourth is guidance. And the fifth is affirmation. So presence, protection, provision, guidance, and affirmation. These are the 5 core needs of any child. So when a father is termed inadequate, it's that he is unable to meet these core needs. Note, we're not talking about the broader needs, just these core needs. A father should be able to be present, or should be present, should provide a measure of protection, provision for the family. And provision is a broad subject. It's not enough to bring money to the table. Provision, guidance, and affirmation. Now, it's unfortunate, but many men actually fall into this category. Now, I can understand also that some people are able to take off maybe 4 of the 5. I mean, no one is perfect, right? And interestingly, some people are able to do 5, but no one is perfect, right? But you become, in my opinion, you become inadequate when you're unable to meet at least 3 of these 5 without even knowing or trying to meet the other 2. I also understand the fact that life is in seasons. Some seasons require more of one than the other, but there should be a balance in the approach to all of these things. So then, here tonight, I'm going to be sharing common types of inadequate dads. Now, research has shown that there is a broad spectrum of inadequate dads. I'm tempted to read all of them out to us, but I don't know that I have the time for that. However, what I have done for you is I have, based on my research, based on my experience, and then layer research on top of that, I have been able to whittle down this number of inadequate dads to about, I think, 7 or 8 that I'm going to share. If time persists, I will run through them. If time doesn't persist, I'm just going to stop exactly where I need to stop. So yeah, now we're jumping into it. And this is the crux of this IG Live. This is the crux of types of fathers, what type you are, and the impact it's having on your children, especially if you have teenage children, right? So yeah, let's jump into it. Types of inadequate fathers. The first one is called the missing in action dad. These fathers take long absences. They have long periods of absence, which is why I chuckled when Deborah said that, her father often took long periods of, should I say, absence, so to speak. Yes, this kind of father is called the missing in action dad. Now, how do we know how do you identify the missing in action dad? He's not physically present in the child's life. He has little or no communication, and he also has minimal financial or emotional support. This is the template for a missing in action dad. That's not enough. What then is the impact of this missing in action dad? You often find that the kids end up with attachment problems. They fight authority a lot. So when you find kids who are often trying to defy authority, fight authority, yeah, guess what? Their father, more often than not, is not there. They often drift away in life. and it's difficult for them to dig deep roots. So if this even carries on into relationships, people who have commitment issues in relationships, it's often as a result of the fact that their fathers were not there. They don't know how to dig deep roots, right? These kids have excessive dependency issues, and they're very codependent. They have major identity struggles, especially for boys. They suffer quite a bit of insecurity. And then they have a greater need for validation and higher risk behaviors. Now, it's no surprise, especially on the validation end, because remember, one of the core needs of a child is affirmation. When the father is not present, another core need to validate this child or to affirm this child, because we're humans, we all want and crave a measure of affirmation and validation. When you don't do this, this child will begin to crave this. So now one of the dangers about this is that such children could potentially end up in the hands or in the, should I say, arms of predators. So you often find that many kids who are abused at some point, could be primary school, could be secondary school, it's often because they're seeking a measure of validation that they did not get when they were at home. So that's inadequate father type 1. Inadequate father type number 2 is the boundary buster dad. This is arguably maybe the most chaotic of the lot. Excuse me, arguably the most toxic of the lot, arguably. This type of father abuses his children. He is an abuser. Long story cut short. How are you able to identify a boundary buster dad? They beat their kids anyhow. You know those fathers who just beat you for no just cause? Like something could even have happened outside the house. They come back in, something little happens in the house, and the whole house, like we say in Nigeria, the whole house collects, right? Everybody just takes their own beating, so they beat the kids anyhow, they curse anyhow, and in some cases, they even make their children earn rightfully what belongs to them. In this case, we're leaning toward the ones who take it the extra mile of financially abusing their children, where the children have to beg and grovel for things like school fees or even just welfare. I mean, you hear of these things and you wonder, are there fathers like this? You will be surprised. These fathers do exist, and some people, have this kind of fathers, but again, this is not that kind of session where, at least not yet, where we talk about people, should I say, coming forth to share their own story. Now, what's the impact of a boundary buster dad on the child or on the children? The kids end up not knowing how to respect other people's boundaries. Why? Because they grew up with a father who did not know how to respect theirs. Now, the flip side of this is where some kids do not know how to respect other people's boundaries. Some others shrink in fear, and so they become too cautious to end up forming solid relationships. So I don't know if you've met those people. They're nice, they're quiet, but they just seem very, what's the word? Subdued. They seem very subdued. They can't seem to hold conversations. They can't lock eyes with elderly people. They can't form strong friendships with people. Very likely products of a boundary buster dad type scenario. These kids also underfunction or overfunction, and they have a high tolerance for chaos. So you will often find that these kids, the girls, they end up growing up to be women that end up with abused husbands. Why? Because they've learned how to tolerate abuse from their father. In the reverse of it is, you will often find the boys to be the ones who end up abusing their wives or their children. Why? Because that's exactly what they saw growing up. Now, the kids can also end up being very manipulative and controlling. But in summary, when they comply, it is because of fear. So they're afraid to do anything because daddy can strike any second. Naturally, this kind of kid will grow up with low self-esteem, which is the reason why they may also fall into the hands of predators. But more, I think there is that being a danger, but two other dangerous things that could potentially happen is that these kids could become very secretive, and they could also have rebellious tendencies. Again, not exactly a great thing. So we've just touched on the second thing, the second type of inadequate dad, which is the boundary buster dad. Now, inadequate dad type number 3 is the critical dad. Again, another very toxic type. The critical dad, this father has failed in many areas of his life, and now he starts to project his failure on his children. Or he's failed to achieve some things in life, and then he begins to deflect on his children, again, not taking responsibility. So while he's not taking responsibility for himself and for his life, he's now being critical of his children. Again, how do you identify this kind of dad beyond what I've just shared? They frequently criticize their children. They rarely praise their children. You know those dads that even when you come first, you know, like you're first in your class, they could take your results and go, why did you score 96 instead of 100? And you're wondering, sir, like, I came first in my class. Why are you asking me why I didn't come first? No, it's that kind of that. So he frequently criticizes, he rarely praises, he focuses on mistakes rather than progress. They're always just nitpicking and looking for flaws. They will never quite praise you. They will never quite tell you, oh, you're doing this great. It's always the flaws that this kind of critical dad focuses on. What's the impact on the children? The kids end up sitting on the fence like Humpty Dumpty. And if you went if you went through nursery school with the Humpty Dumpty rhyme, you know what happened to Humpty Dumpty. He fell because he was sitting on the fence. This is what happens to the kids of the critical dad. They end up sitting on the fence, and eventually when they fall, it is nasty because they had no business sitting on the fence. They have difficulty making up their minds because they're not sure, you know, where that is going to blow. If he's going to blow hot today, he's going to blow cold today. So they never quite take a side in order to avoid criticism. These kids end up, or should I say, they grow up to be men that underfunction. So you find such men running away from responsibility. Why? Because growing up, all they faced was just criticism, and mostly negative criticism. Now, these kids can also be very abusive and manipulative because they've seen that the way to get them to get the way that their father got them to do stuff was by being critical of them. So they know how to manipulate people to also get them to do stuff. It's a negative thing. These kids naturally exhibit or have low confidence. The flip side of it is, while some are exhibiting low confidence, others are being perfectionists. So again, the problem with perfectionism is that you then become exactly like your father. You become a critical parent. So you could be a critical dad or a critical mom. But in the pursuit, you mask it with, oh, I'm just a perfectionist. I just like things to. No, more often than not, it is because you are being a critical person. You're constantly looking for how to nitpick and you know, identify errors without even praising people for the things that they've done right. Naturally, these people have a fear of failure, and interestingly, they have a constant need for approval. They're constantly seeking approval. So yeah, that's number 3, should I say, inadequate father type. Number 4, inadequate father type. I see you guys who have joined. Hello. I see you, Sheon. I see you, Johnson. Vera, I see you. Thank you guys so much for joining. Kelvin, I see you. Thank you guys so much for joining. Number 4, inadequate dad type. And I'm sharing this not to shade anyone, not to make anyone feel less, but I'm sharing this so that you can identify either the relationship, or should I say the type of father that you had,